Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today, I want to focus on this point here of whether or not Kabam is bug fix focused for Kabam's sake, or they're bug fix focused for players' sake, or whether or not it's up in the air, they just fix bugs as they come. Because every time they change something major in the game or there's huge interaction that feels really bad for players, a lot of people mention, oh, Kabam, they only fix things to make the game pro Kabam. It's unfair. They're so fast to react. And there's a lot of arguments both ways, but it's really tough to gauge whether or not that's actually happening. There's no full and accurate way to do this. And even this attempt, which I'm going to do, is not perfect. But what I really wanted to fixate on was this post response from Kabam Mike, where he states, I get where you're coming from, but we let players know about this bug as soon as we identified it, and we are giving more than a month's notice on the fix. They're referring to the Morningstar lifesteal. As we mentioned earlier in this thread, this fix won't be coming until June. There's never going to be a case where bugs will remain untouched just because it's old. That's not healthy for any game and can lead to a pretty rapid end. I also personally am always striving for more transparency between us and our players, but I don't understand what more transparency we can give here. If I'm missing something, please let me know. As for the thing about bugs that hurt players versus those that don't, I urge you to look back at the release notes for the last 30 plus releases and then also into the many bug fixes we make live. I think you'll find that this silly rumor has no footing. Interesting. Now, 30 plus is a lot. But I'm thinking, you know what? No one's going to do this, Kabam Mike. 30 plus releases, who's going to go and filter through all of the bug fixes in the changelog and decide whether or not they're Kabam, pro Kabam or pro player? This is just kind of a silly, response. And I was like, you know what? I'm the kind of person who would do that. So I went back to April 2019. That's where I start here in this post. And I literally went through all the bug fixes and I scaled them up on an Excel sheet, which I have here, and I categorized them based on pro player versus pro Kabam. Now, bear in mind that I also have a category called neutral / not relevant enough. So if they changed a champion that I felt was both used as an attacker and someone you ran into in defense, where if you were using them as an attacker, it's player pro, and if it's someone you go against on defense, that's Kabam pro, right? Every time you die and have to use resources, that's pro Kabam. Every time an interaction is screwing you over as an attacker, it's pro player. And if they changed a champion where I just felt it didn't matter, here Beast would miss his first hit in his special one after chaining from a medium attack. I'm just, whether or not that's pro Kabam or pro player, I just don't think it inevitably matters. It's so small a change, I don't think it's relevant, or Loki was invulnerable longer than intended after his special 2. It didn't feel oh man, that's breaking the game one way or the other, so I left it in neutral. So this is the running total, and I'll scroll all the way down to the bottom. This Excel sheet is linked in the description as well in case you want to contest me on this. The point of this is one, I'm biased, so keep in mind that on some of these maybe I think it's a non-issue or I think it's pro Kabam or pro player, but the point of this is not to say this is the end all be all. I'm not 100% on all of these locations. I placed them the best I could just to get a relevant idea, and I'm linking the Excel sheet so you guys can read it and see if you grossly disagree. But please, if you just have one instance where you're hey, I disagree with this placement, don't bother. If you've got 5 or more, feel free to post and be hey, these 5, because that will sway the numbers a lot. It's just if you only have one, and you only disagree with one iteration, then of course it's not really going to sway these numbers that much, because the point of this is not to show, oh, they're Kabam favorite or player favorite, just that they address bugs and they do it when they can, and kind of show that there's a relative neutrality there on bug fixing. But also, keep in mind that these are from the release notes, so naturally it's gonna be leaning towards player favored because it is notes released by Kabam. So we miss out on a lot of things that happen in the game that players are pro Kabam, but the players aren't really seeing. Like the Black Widow Clairvoyant change is not here, and that is a Kabam Pro, or the Morningstar Lifesteal change, that's a Kabam Pro as well, and those aren't here. So naturally, the numbers are going to be shifted a little bit, but again, the whole point of this is to just show relative neutrality. Like it's not hardcore, like, oh, it's 80 Kabam favored bug fixes and 10 player favored bug fixes. And that's what we see here. We see after a whole year, from April 2019 all the way to next month's bug fixes, we see that Kabam has what I would argue 39 Kabam favored and 52 player favored, as well as 120 give or so neutral, and then just one what, where like the description is just so completely off in the bug fix. I have no idea which way it goes. And this is pretty reasonable, all things concerned. Feel free to look through the Excel sheet and let me know what you think. But as far as I'm concerned, I'd say the myth is dispelled. Kabam, yes, they do tend to fix a lot of their bugs, and I would even argue from my own perspective, they fix their Kabam favorite bugs faster than they do player ones. They are much quicker to pull triggers on bug fixes that seriously negatively impact Kabam. They're much faster to fix crystals if they're busted. They're much faster to fix any kind of champions that are just getting free wins and cheese mechanics. Yes, I do personally think, and that's my own anecdotal evidence, that I think they respond faster to that, but that's an expectation that's reasonable. The point is, in the long run, over the course of many months, is Kabam relatively neutral? And I think this represents that they are. And that's the only point I'm trying to make. You know me, I'm a Kabam apologist. I shine Kabam Mike's shoes, specifically his left shoe, because he has 2 Kabam shoe polishers at his entourage. Sorry, it took me a moment. But that said, let me know what y'all think, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.